of financial statement by functions and by nature using these questions. So we have these questions that asking us to do by function and by nature statement of profit or loss. So we will need to categorize them using the by functions. So these are the few functions. So let's start with by functions first. So we are going to classify all these informations that given in the questions into cost of sales, admin, distributions, other expenses, finance, as well as tax. So these are technically the functions, the general functions that we always see in the organizations. But later on, when we talk about by nature, that will be slightly different because we will look at the items, the nature of the items, and classify them. So let's start with the most easiest one, which is by functions. And we start with categorize. Revenue will be the first item in our SOPL. So it's our revenue. Purchase will be cost of sales. Tax expense under our tax. And warehouse operating expenses. Since it is connecting to the customers, is so-called distributing. Wages for operators in warehouse. So this is also distributing. We are distributing the item. Staff salary. So we assume this is an office staff salary. Therefore, it is an admin expenses. Rental for warehouse. Again, it is a warehouse. So distributing expenses. Rental for office. So it's for office admin. Utility. So this utility expenses, since question didn't say anything, whether it is for warehouse or office or later on could be additional informations will be given. We tentatively put it under admin. Interest expense, finance cost. Opening inventory will be the cost of sales for us to calculate the cost of goods sold. Plant and equipment as well as motor vehicle, that will be our non-current asset. Later we will need to calculate depreciations. Additional informations we have given that the closing inventory is 114,800 at cost and 120,100 for an RV. So we are going to choose the lowest one. Following IAS2 inventory. So that will be our cost of sales. We need to minus this closing inventory. The company treat depreciations on plant and equipment as cost of sales. So the depreciations for plant and equipment will be cost of sales, and the depreciation for motor vehicle will be your distributions cost. Depreciation policy as below. So let's calculate the depreciations. Plant and equipment 1,005 million divided by 15 years. So if we divide it by 15 years, our depreciations will be at 100,000, and therefore this will be put under cost of sales. Since question mentions depreciation, plant and equipment, put it under cost of sales. And the motor vehicle cost at 950, depreciate 10 years, 10% per annum on cost. So our cost is 950,000 divide times 10%. So after times 10%, 950 times 10%. So my depreciations will be 95,000. That will be putting under your distribution. Since question mentioned motor vehicle depreciation, distributing expenses. Current year income tax is estimated at 16,000. However, your tax is actually recorded at 15,500 in your trial balance. So there will be an under recording of 500. You will need to increase your tax expense. So since we know that total is 16,000 but we only pay 15,500, meaning to say 500 is accrued tax expense. Deferred tax liability increased by 5,000. So in accordance with IAS 12 income taxes, deferred tax is something that we are going to enjoy the benefit, or we are going to get tax in future. So deferred tax liability is actually our tax is going to happen in future, something that we need to pay more tax in future. So it's our present obligations. we will need to debit our tax expense by increase our tax expense by another 5,000 as given here, increase deferred tax by 5,000. We will debit income tax expense and credit deferred tax liability. But since we didn't ask to do SOFP, we will just ignore. Allowance for doubtful debt has reduced to 1,002. So this is actually our decrease in doubtful debts. So it's our income or reductions in expenses. And doubtful debts, we will treat it under admin. So admin cost later will reduce. Bad debt, we also put it under admin, but it will increase your admin expenses. During the year, company is being sued by a customer due to breach of contract. So there is a present obligation because you get sued by the customer. And the amount is measured reliable at 300,000. So 300,000 will be the present obligations amount, value of obligations. And the outflow of future economic benefit is probable. So in accordance with IAS 37, probable, outflow, and measured reliable, please record your liability. And this is something happened once in the blue moon. So we are going to put it under other expenses because it won't happen every time. So with that, let's start with by functions. So by functions, our cost of sales will start with the most classic formula that we learn in statement of profit or loss. We will start with our opening inventory. So this opening inventory will be over here, and we will need to plus our purchase 550,200, and we will need to minus our closing inventory. As we have chosen the amount, the smallest of cost and NRV, which is 114,800. So that will be our cost of goods sold. So we have 1 item, 2 items, and our third items. Still got one more, which is depreciations on plant. So depreciations of plant and equipment is 100,000. Increase your cost of goods sold. And 1, 2, 3, 4. So we have 4 items under cost of goods sold. And the next is admin. So admin, we have staff salary. So staff salary, admin. And we have our renter. So renter on office. And we have our utility expense. And the next admin will be my decrease in doubtful debts. So decrease in doubtful debts by 1,200. That will be our admin 4 items. And distributions, we have these 4, 1, 2, 3, and 4. So let's start with distribution. Warehouse, operating expense, wages for operator in warehouse. And we have our distributions, renter for warehouse. And we have the depreciations of my motor vehicle. So depreciations for motor vehicles, 95,000. Other expenses, we have our legal claims proceedings expenses. So these other expenses is our 300,000 get sued by the customer. Finance costs, interest expense. So our interest expense, finance cost is 65,000. And my tax, so my tax, I have my tax expense originally recorded in my SOPL. No, sorry, trial balance is 15,500. But not to forget, we have our accrued tax, 500. And we have another 5,000 increase in deferred tax liability. So if you sum up everything, that will be your total breakdown for cost of sales, for admin, distributions, other expenses, finance, and your tax. And by functions, very simple. You just need to present. Now all these are in here, and we need to move it to statement of profit or loss. So we start off with revenue, and we will minus with our cost of goods sold, put it over here, and get your gross profit. And you minus your admin, distributions, and other expenses, you will get profit for the form operations. Minus your finance cost 65,000, you get profit before interest and tax. Sorry, this is profit before tax. Okay, so after that, we will minus our tax 21,000, we will get profit for the year. So 1.815170 million. So this is our by function. So by functions. What about by nature? So as you can see over here, we have a couple of colors that I have labeled in here. So after you analyze all the items, all these are by functions. But when it comes to by nature, the list of items that you are going to put it under SOPL, you will need to group it together based on one single nature. Like for example, opening inventory and closing inventory, they are the changes of inventory. Last year inventory and this year inventory, you change how much. So we are going to put it under call it as changes in inventory under one single line in your by nature. So this is by nature category. And purchase is so-called purchase, the consumptions, the purchase of the so-called for the raw material inventory. And we have depreciations of plant and equipment. So depreciations, and this depreciation is considered one category. They are actually depreciation expenses. So depreciation expenses under purple color. Staff salary, another salary that we have is wages. Remuneration, salary, wages, staff benefit, all this is considered staff costs. And rental, sometimes we will classify it as one line. So as long as you see there are multiple same name coming across in your list of SOPL item, you can group it as one line. So because it's significant, so we will just classify this as rental expense. So both are rental expense. And all these utility expenses appear for one time, decrease of doubtful debt one time, and warehousing operating expenses. All this green color, we can put it under other operating expenses. So depending the items itself. But normally, we always will see staff costs as one line, changes in inventory, depreciations, purchase. We can actually put it nicely in this item of nature of the SOPL. Interest expense, as usual, finance costs. And your tax, as usual, tax expense. So it's one line. So with that, these are your by nature. And we will need to prepare a schedule like this, presenting your each line item of by nature. So using this, changes of inventory will be this and this, increased by 5,002. Purchase, depreciations, this depreciation of plant and equipment plus depreciation of motor vehicle. Staff cost, staff salary plus wages. Rental expense, the rental for office plus rental for warehouse. Other operating expenses, those happen not really frequent and only for one time. So we adding up. Finance cost 65,000 and the tax expense 21,000. The sum up 3.524,830 million and must be the same, 3.524,830 million. And we will transfer this particular amount into our by nature SOPL. So by nature, we don't have gross profit. We will use revenue minus all the expenses, changes in inventory, purchase, depreciations, staff costs, rental, other operating expense. Then we will get profit from operations minus your interest. We get profit before tax, and we minus our tax expense. You will get profit for the year. So the answer for both by nature and by functions is the same, 1.815 million. And this will be the by nature, by functions difference. So it is important for you to analyze each items, to classify them into each by nature line items for you to present in SOPL. So without go through the list over here, you cannot having a set of lists like this with the amount, and you classify them, grouping them into the single same nature item. You can complete your entire SOPL. So that's all. Thank you so much.